All right, another streaming box, the Retro Monster. I just said there's a big tiger on the front. Okay, it's 48,206 games. Everything from PSP and Sega Saturn and Nintendo 64 would be kind of the Thomas Wave would be like the most powerful systems on here, and then it goes down to like CPC, Amstrad, Atari, really older systems, and then everything in between: the Game Boys, the SNES, the Genesis. All the fun games in between and systems. It even has hack games, things like that. It's kind of an interesting one. It also has the X4 processor in this thing. It's a little computer box, and it's one of the faster ones on the cheaper end of the spectrum. So let's see what it's all about. There's some pros and cons to this one. Might be up your alley, might not, but let's go ahead and check it out. So what exactly are you buying? A lot of these come in like the same box. It's this game console. They sell a lot of things in these boxes. Anyways, here's your console here. Here are the two remotes. Typically the remotes only come with one Wi-Fi dongle or 2.4 gigahertz dongle. And that's because they can run independently, but this one comes with one each, so. You got two batteries there, and then you got the instruction manual in the back. And then here's your system power, HDMI. This remote, you're only going to really need it if you're going to be using this like as a TV box. You can often dual boot these. You can see it has the micro SD card in there, and you have this little. You can take this off if you wish. Whoa, look at that! I mean, this is pretty cheap considering I literally almost pulled off. I almost pulled off the whole emblem. So they're just getting these boxes and slapping their logo on it. But what's the big deal on this one? This is the X4. So there's the S905 X1, X2, X3. So X4 is the most overclocked version of them. So we'll see what kind of performance we get out of this thing. It has a lot of ventilation on it. We'll see. But basically, you get your power, your HDMI, you hook up your controllers and little USBs on the side, and then this is what it comes preloaded with all your games in this little micro SD card. Let's see what they're putting in here. I'm going to void the warranty here. So this is actually a SanDisk Ultra. It could still be a clone card. It could just be that they're cloning them. I'm not sure if it's an authentic SanDisk, but 256 gigabytes. You should get a lot of games on there, so let's go ahead and plug it in and check it out. So today we got the Retro Beast at 48,206 games. Next you have your favorites. You can add and remove games. Especially with this many games, you're going to want to select the ones you really like. First system up is CPC. You have 2,900 games. I'm not going to go in there and look at all the games because there's just so many. I'm going to do for the systems I think most people want to see. Amstrad GX4000, there are only 25 games here. As far as how the system looks, you can absolutely change it. You just go press start on your controller, go to user interface, and you can see there's all these themes. You got Graphite, you have Art Flicks, you have Alex Full, you have Emulate, Carbon, Fundamental, all kinds of stuff. We're going to stay on the Super Sweet. It's a pretty nice one. It's the same one we're on. I don't know why it makes you load. It's going to be the same as we were just doing. So Arcade Classics, there's only 11 here. I don't know why there's like this little subcategory here, but there's some good games here. Mame is where the majority of your arcade games are going to be at 2,100 games. So you can have everything from your Mortal Kombat, your 1940s games, Rambo, what's the X-Men, the game, the Simpsons game, Bad Dudes, all that fun stuff. It's going to have pretty much all of them. And they're actually running pretty good, and they're all set up really well. When you click into a game, it'll load in, and you can insert. These are old school arcade games that require tokens. So the fun thing about that is you can just hit select on your controller, and you see there. Look how many innings I'm buying.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And you can just buy innings with them. You can use a generic Xbox 360 controller, or you can use they sell this kit with the controllers as well. They both work well.
Moving along, Atari 2600, you got 594. Atari 800, you got 2600 games. Atari 5200, you got 95. ST, that's something you're going to notice about the system. 850. Atari 7800 is it pretty much has all the old consoles. 7800, 65. Atari Lynx, 82. Wonder Swan and Wonder Swan Color is going to be a couple hundred there. 114 here and 80 maybe here. 91. Capcom Play System, 25 games. There's a lot of really good games here. Ghouls and Ghosts, Mercs, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 2, different versions, CP2 systems. So these arcade-based systems are super fun to play. Co, you probably have all of them at 146. You have VIC-20. You've got 174. Conference, you're going to probably have a ton here. Yeah, 6,500 games. Does it have video snaps? No. So it just shows you a little picture of what the game is. And not a lot of the details are done for you. Some of these have meta descriptions there. See, like this one has it in the bottom right corner. Amiga, let's see how many games we have. 2,600. Scripts and setup, I didn't even see this, so that's cool. Install drastic, okay. So some emulator settings, nothing crazy. Philips video pack, you got 28. Odyssey 2, you've got 113 in television. You've got 149. So far, every system we've looked at, by the way, this thing is powerful enough to stream it at full speed. 540 on MSX, 518 MSX2. All these systems, you're going to play perfectly fine. No lag. You can play all these games just like you did in your childhood. PC Engine, almost 300. CD-ROM. PC Engine CD, just 2. Super Graphics should be about 5. And then TurboGrafx 16, going to be a lot more. 98. TurboGrafx CD. 56, so quite a bit there. Let's go ahead and look at these. I like to look at the CD-based games because these are some of the more uncommon games that you don't always see on all these different builds. And then PCFX, probably not very many, 50. There you go. Game Watch, probably around 50. How many does it say? 59. Family Computer System, 1,600. Now, there's going to be a mix of Japanese games. Yeah, all kinds of stuff in here. NES, probably another big mix. Yeah, there's only around 700 or 800 games for the NES, so this is going to be Japanese games, English games. It might even be the hack games as well, because if you scroll over one more, you have 340 hacks. So this might just be all these games in one category here, which kind of sucks. You know, it's not really well organized. The hack games, oh look, even the hack games, there's some Japanese variants of games. What game is this? All Night Nippon Super Mario Brothers. Okay. Some of them are kind of interesting. I'll give them that, but only a select few. Family Computer Disk System 209. So Game Boy, again, it's going to have the hacks and the regular games in it. Pretty much all of them, but it's just a mess. Like, for example, Pokemon. If you want a Pokemon, you go up to P. You can actually hit select on your controller here. Just go ahead and type in P. Okay, and then I'll search that. And yeah, so you have Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue Edition, Gold. Is it 2 different red editions? No, blue. Oh, yeah, this red version, who knows what the difference is. All right, and then you have another special Pikachu version. They're going to work, you know, like let's just do the yellow version. It'll work. Because a lot of people say these don't work. I mean, for the most part, they work, and they're going to give you the games you want. It's not really well done. They do have all the, if you look in the upper right-hand corner there, they do have all the frames per second on all these games. Yeah. All right, so there you saw it. Yeah, it's not the it's not the perfect graphic, but it works. All right. So, Game Boy hacks, and then Super Famicom. These are going to be your Japanese, but it looks like they're just throwing between the Super Nintendo. Oh, wow, they actually sorted the Super Nintendo out. That is surprising. But Super Famicom, they didn't sort out the US games. They were just like, oh, let's throw the Japanese and the US games in this one. So that's what they did with that one, and then this one they put the English games. And then the hacks. Again, there's some interesting ones, you know, like Super Mario World. These are like little variants of games. Kind of fun to play around with. So I don't mind them. As long as they're separated out, I don't mind them at all. Virtual Boy, 33. Nintendo 64. Now, this we're going to get some lag, especially when it comes to, I played Rogue Squadron. You know, it definitely lags. The controls were not perfect when you first set up. And then as well as you need to pick your emulator. So Nintendo 64 has a few emulators for it. If you're just getting this build, something you want to do is hit select on your controller, go down to advanced system options, and you notice here the emulator selection. You have a few different options here. I think by default it's set to parallel. Now a lot of games run really well in parallel, but I actually find that MuPin 64 Plus runs better. Like for example, Rogue Squadron will not run at all with parallels. It'll just be a white screen. But it will run with these three. It won't run flawlessly, but it'll run. It might be playable. So you kind of got to mess around with these settings in Nintendo 64 to get it to run well. As far as the performance-wise, that's where you're going to start to see a little bit of lag because of the constraints of the system, but also that it's not the settings are not optimized either. If you optimize the settings, a lot of the Nintendo 64 can be played. No problem. All right, so Nintendo Game Boy Color. I didn't mean to go into that game, but as you saw there, pretty much all the games. You do get these nice little launch screens and things like that, so it's not bad. And then when you exit a game, you see that little Mario Kart image, which is kind of interesting. Like, swerve, let's get the heck out of this game. I don't know if that's like what they're going for there. Game Boy hacks, though, look at that. Over 1,000 Game Boy hack games. Now, I'm curious, what's 1,000? There's got to be one game in here that there's like 20 of. Like Bomberman came up a lot. Okay, Dragon, and then when you get to Mario, I'm sure there's going to be a ton. And so some of it's not really Pocket Monsters and Pokemon. There's a lot there. Wow, so there actually is a lot of different games there to try out. Game Boy Advanced, 1,800. That's pretty much all of them. But like, look, when you go into this Game Boy, you'll see there's a lot of like 3-in-1 games and videos and things like that. Let's go back to Game Boy Advance. So 2-in-1, 3-in-1. So it's just a ton of stuff. Nintendo Game Boy hacks. I'm sure there's a lot here. Wow, only 2. Okay. I figured there'd be more. Pokemon Minis. Those are like the, smaller games. Kind of almost like Tamagotchi pets type games. Okay. And then Nintendo DS. 1,600 games. Pretty much all of them. MSU. These are advanced soundtracked SNES games. 3DO, 39 games, not bad. Most of these should run okay. 3DO has a little bit of glitching in it, but they're playable. And as far as a game you're looking for, try Wolfenstein 3D or Road Rash should be in here. Yeah, one of the better Road Rash games are in here as well. Myst is a fun game. Mad Dog, good shooting game. All right, moving to ports. All junk. This shows Shredder's Revenge. It does not work at all. Open Bore, you have 2 games. Thomas Wave. So this is where you're going to get some lag. Not all these games are going to play really well, and it's the limitations of the system. Just know that SG-1000, pretty much all of them, 99. Sega Master System, probably all of them, 442. Sega Mega Drive, Japanese games, 381. And then US, UK, 920, pretty much all of them. Looks like these are actually sorted correctly. They sorted the Genesis, but the Nintendo was not sorted. Hacks, Genesis. Super Nintendo was actually sorted. Game Gear. That looks fairly sorted. They're going to, Japanese in there as well. So it's Japanese and US releases. Game Gear Hacks 22. Okay, here you go. Mega Drive. Okay, this one is just like all of them put together. Okay. Even looks like there's some mature content here as well. Yes. All right. Sega Genesis 32X, 37, Sega CD. 2 games. That's it, huh? Mortal Kombat. That's kind of random. Sega Saturn. 233. Well, that makes sense. This is a 256 gigabyte build. You can't put everything on here. Sega Saturn 33, in case you're curious what 33 games. Sega Saturn, the controls are not set up out of the box. You're going to have to change your controls. I don't know why they threw the light gun games in there. Kind of random, if you ask me. Dreamcast 13. I feel like most people who have this are not going to be playing light gun games. Naomi. 54 games here, in case you're curious what those are. We'll scroll through those. These games are taking up a lot more space. They do got Power Stone 1 and 2. Nice. Sega Tetris, or Tennis, and Virtual NBA. Zero Gunner. So 68,000. Here's where they stuff a bunch of games. 847. There's going to be a bunch of games here. ZX70. Here we go. ZX Sinclair. So 6,000 games. That bumps up that 40,000 game thing. Neo Geo CD, 25 games. And then Neo Geo should be 100 and something. 151, pretty much all of them. Neo Geo Pocket and Pocket Color should be another couple hundred. And then PlayStation. So I've tested a few of these games. Some of the games have music, some don't. And some are just random games. A lot of you guys watching this love PlayStation. So I'm going to sort through all these games to see if It's plug and play for all of you. I feel like a lot of people who buy this system are going to be buying it plug and play. So let's go ahead and show you those. So Crime Cries, another light gun game. PSP, let's check these out. How many games do we have? 15. Yeah, I was going to say, you can't put too many on here. They're kind of big. I played a few of these and they ran just fine. PSP minis, probably all of them. And then all games, back to all games. So there you have it. Final thoughts. It depends on what the price point is on this thing. If you can get it under $100, I mean, that's pretty good considering the SD card, the controllers, and the computer itself. You know, without it being pre-configured, it's got to be around $40 or $50. And so just for an extra few dollars, if they were going to throw on, get it all set up for you and it's plug and play. And it still has all the Marios on here. It has all the Pokemon games on there. So it hit that. There's some areas where I was like super impressed by it. Like they had the FPSs on. They have the correct resolution set up. And then there's other places where it's just like they didn't spend any time at all. So these things still have some polishing to do. Some getting things going. Especially Nintendo 64 and Sega Saturn and Atomic Wave. But those are also the areas in which these systems need more horsepower to really perform well. So I don't hate it for like somebody who just wants to play Nintendo and Super Nintendo. I mean, because if you were to go out to the store and buy one of those systems and buy the games you want, you'd spend hundreds of dollars. So for around $100, if not less, you would be able to play all those games and more. And, you have this whole system to mess around with. So I like it from those reasons. We still have a long way to go with these builds. It can be a good option for some people out there. Watch this video, see if it has the games you want, see if they run. If that's what you want, then fine. There you go. But as far as people watching my channel and like they're waiting for like the ultimate build that somebody actually went through and they picked all the correct artwork and it's all pre-set up and everything is running really well and you don't have to tinker with anything in order to get everything to work and there's no duplicates and it's rightly it's sorted correctly. This one was not sorted 100%. There still needs to be some work done there. So as far as the X4 processor versus the X3 processor, for those who don't know, there's like an X2. I mean, they're definitely getting better and better and better. But if you're not going to be playing, Nintendo 64 or Sega Saturn, then I don't see a huge difference in performance. Like the SNES and the arcade, all this stuff's going to run fine on whatever model you buy. So you might get some performance, though, when it comes to streaming and things like that, if you're also using this as a streaming box. So that's what I think. Let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right, so there you have it. Now we're going to do some emulation. So like I said, arcade game's going to run just fine. And while I'm doing the emulation test, I'm also going to throw in some of the pros and cons. So I looked at this. There's a 64 gigabyte version. There's a 128 gigabyte version. And then there's the 256 gigabyte version that I'm reviewing. Do know that you could dual boot this as well. So you got the the emulation front end, which is actually really cool. And you can change the themes and you can update it. You can add games. You can remove games. It's a lot of fun. But you can also boot this into Android and then run it like as a streaming box, put some Android apps on there, use it as a music player, whatever. It works well. I didn't talk about the controllers much. It comes with like some PS2 controllers. PS2 controllers. So this is a Sega Saturn. I couldn't get the controls running perfectly. I had to remap them and everything. So I just loaded a game to show you the performance. It actually ran Daytona just fine. Most of the Sega Saturn games should work okay. So here's where the lag came in with Demolish Fist. And this game is definitely laggy. Like I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing it. It's playable. It's acceptable maybe for some people. Other people are going to say it's total garbage. I guess it depends on where your threshold is. I personally wouldn't enjoy playing the game with this little bit of lag. So do know, like when it comes to Atomic Wave and some Nintendo 64 titles, some higher end PSP titles, some higher end Sega Saturn titles. That's really where this thing is going to start struggling. So here you go, Rogue Squadron. But let me tell you, like if you want to play other Nintendo 64 games like Conker's Bad Fur Day or something like that, it should actually run just fine. Donkey Kong, Mario Party, Super Mario, it should run decent. This game is always harder to emulate. And as I said earlier in the video, you just kind of got to optimize it. Now, PlayStation 1, all these games are going to run just fine, 100%. You're going to run it just fine. You're going to love it. It's going to be fun. And that's why, although I show you that clip where you got some lag, that's just the limitations of this device. This device you're still going to have way too many games to ever play in your entire lifetime. But if you're looking for something more high performance, I recommend, using your own laptop, a desktop computer. There's some, small mini PCs out there that are much more powerful. There's lots of options for you. Even your cell phone, if you have a decent cell phone, it'll run a lot of this stuff at full speed. So this thing does come with 2 controllers. They're decent. They're very average, decent. They're not garbage. Like, they work. If you need controllers, it might be a good option for you. Otherwise, like an Xbox 360 controller would work just fine with a build like this. So here we are on PSP right now. This is the Metal Slug. I think it's called Anthropology, where you can play like all the Metal Slugs from 1 to X to 6. It's all on there. And as you see, it's running great. I'm not dropping any frames. A lot of the PSP games run good. And don't forget there's PSP minis as well. And so my final thoughts are, this is another box on the market. There's so many of them. But here's another one that I've reviewed personally. It's sold on Amazon, so you can return it really easily if you needed to. It does what it says it could do. It's kind of overpromises a little bit on the performance, but now it's not garbage per se, because it does do a lot of that, but it isn't perfect, especially with the organization of things and stuff like that, which is pretty standard on a lot of these builds and boxes. So as long as you know what you're getting into and it has what you want, then you could be happy with it. If you're expecting this thing to be totally squared away, ready to go, everything works perfectly, you don't have to do anything, and every single thing is squared away, no, that's not necessarily the case. So, yeah, that's what I think. Let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.